Welcome to Playground. It's the first episode of our podcast. I'm here with my co-host Joel. I'm
Yo, what's
Don.
up? All right, so preface, this topic pisses me off because to me it sounds so fucking stupid. But here it goes. I hear people get on the internet and say that male to male relationships are seen as homoerotic. And what some people are saying, they're saying that like, you know what, like dudes actually love each other, right? And like, you know, platonic male friendships because they care more about what their boys have to say. You know, they care about male validation. All their superheroes growing up are men. Like they kind of play up this narrative and try to make what is like just normal guy to guy relationships, and they try to add like this sexual undertone to it.
Yeah.
Which to me is weird. And I only ever hear it from like, you know, not regular people. It's like it's always someone with a podcast, and people that have a podcast, listen, you know, like not everyone's normal, right?
Oh, we're weird, yo. Shit.
We're weird. Right? We get on these mics and we give our opinions, or you're not a normal person. But what do you think about that idea and concept? Because before I go off on my tangent of why I think that's dumb.
Yeah. I feel like there's two sides, because one side is like women get on men for not being able to express themselves.
Yeah.
And have emotions, right? So like when men do express themselves with each other, with other men, and kind of like be vulnerable, you guys are like, oh, they're gay. They have to be gay.
Yeah.
So like that part I don't agree with. But then I feel like they're arguing in a different sense, where they're arguing for like those different type of guys where like you said before, they do kind of like have male validation rank above like what their girl thinks, what their female friends think. Like you know those guys are like, oh, like I'm gonna wear this and like I have these shoes and everything. But at the end of the day, females don't care.
Right.
But they're doing it more for their mans. But then I'm not to say that they're gay, but they have their like values and how they get a validation in society kind of mixed up.
You know what I think about that? Just about the topic in general. I think it's manipulation for people to get on a podcast and then paint something as homoerotic. Because to me, you're just pushing this agenda because you know by labeling it homoerotic. Because haven't you noticed that like when women are attacking guys, they all of a sudden become homophobic?
Yeah, no, for sure.
You know what I'm saying? Like even this whole thing about these relations are homoerotic, like there's like a homophobic undertone in that.
Whenever women want to like, I guess, attack a man's character, the first thing they kind of like go to is like, oh, like
he's gay.
You're gay. You have to be gay.
I'm like, we need to start checking people on that because we've done a pretty good job to like even this year I saw a gay Toronto guy was saying this is the first year in Caribana where no gay person was harassed.
Yeah.
Like we've done a really good job of, I mean, when I say really good job, relatively speaking, it's not like we're perfect. Like I don't want someone thinking that I'm like make Canada great again type energy, right? But we've done like a really good job so far. So when I see these kind of topics come out and they kind of try to go under the guise of being like super deep and like you guys don't know why I go on and it's like, bro, there's serious homophobia here because what you're saying
for sure.
Like what they're trying to say is no, because at the end of the day, if they're wondering why, you know, like we have male validation ranked higher, it's because we spend all our time when we're young just with the boys. Yeah. Right?
It's the same shit where we're the same way how girls feel more like open and vulnerable with other girls. Yeah. Like we're not to the same extent where like girls can get naked in front of each other, but you know what I'm saying? Like guys can talk about stupid shit and nothing judged. Yeah. And like I feel like that's a disconnect between like I don't even say it's a disconnect because at the end of the day like we have the same type of like goal or like why we're like more close to the guys or girls are more closer to girls. It's the same thing.
It's just, and you know what I think? It's just like it's like a proximity thing, you know. Plus like okay, the boys are there for everything in your life, right? Yep. So of course you're gonna have more you're gonna seek more validation from you're gonna look for more validation from people, from individuals or beings that are more like you, right? It comes down to also, you can say that plays into like ethnicity and all these things. Like is just more comfortable. So that's the extent of my knowledge on the issue. I'm scratching the surface, but I think that's what it comes down to. It's just I'm around men. Yeah. I'm a boy, so I'm gonna
also say this too, like our experience and how we view it may be different compared to like how another man views it or how another man the reason why another man may seek male validation, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm gonna get to that stage where I don't need validation from others. I don't want to be able to seek validation from others. So in a sense, I could see why some people, even like females dress like very provocative sometimes for male validation. So I could see how they could see something's wrong with it, but it's also like a double standard where like you have to see like what you guys do for male validation or like female validation. Like everybody does shit for validation at the end of the
day. Exactly.
Yeah.
I don't like where we're at where there's a bunch of finger pointing. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of going on social media and seeing all this finger pointing, and it's becoming weird.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, we're all human. Like we make human mistakes. Like we can't be perfect. I'm not gonna be able to. I can't say like, oh, like I don't see validation at all. Like I'm better than you. Like we all have different stages, different phases, different experiences. So like, I get what you're saying though.
Right, it's weird, and I can understand sometimes where like a girl could be like, oh, like my boyfriend cares more about like what his boys think. Like for example, like
but that doesn't have to do with necessarily being gay. Like sometimes that just has to do with them not being mature enough to have a relationship. Or not being ready to be in a relationship.
Right, it's like say the right thing.
They don't need to be gay.
Yeah, don't go the cheap shot route about what that is.
It's kind of like identifying someone or like saying they're gay is pretty low cheap shot.
It's a low cheap shot. It's like it's low hanging fruit of low vibrations.
It is.
It's a low hanging fruit of low vibrations. He's gonna say it like to go there is weird, but it's better said the way you said it. It's like maybe he hasn't matured yet, and he doesn't know that he doesn't need his boys' approval on everything.
Because I see why some women would say that. Because at the end of the day, your boys are your boys.
Mm-hmm.
But like your partner, if you're in like a hetero relationship, your partner is the one that's gonna hold you down.
Mm-hmm.
That's actually gonna be there with you. So you should be seeking normally just validation from them, which that I get. But then again, it's like I said, where it's like, don't call them gay. Just realize that they're not ready for a relationship.
Exactly. And you know what goes missed? I was just thinking about in that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is maybe going a little too deep. I'm just kind of thinking through it. I'm like, we're social creatures.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, we're going to look for validation from others. That's how we survived.
Yeah.
That's literally how we survived. If you didn't get the validation from other people, you were kicked out the group. Then you had to go fend on your own. So that it goes back to what you were saying. It's about growing. It's about maturing. And that's the kind of conversation we should be having. I'm tired of hearing these men have a homoerotic. I'm like, you're so fake deep. It's annoying.
Because then, like, I feel like nowadays people just kind of like just push their agenda, and it goes both ways. Men too. Like the same way they like say like, oh, women just want this. They don't want you unless you're successful, which is a lie. Because it's like fucking 80% of the world are not rich.
Exactly.
You're telling me 80% of the women that are with mans only are with them because they have money and they're like a money bag? No. Yes, there are women like that. It's like there are men who are like that fit what they're saying and their agenda, but like don't blanket everybody under the same umbrella.
It's so immature. You're right. Especially when dudes say that, it's like, man, bro, there's so.
Yeah, when they say all girls are the same, they want the same shit. I'm like, you guys have probably dealt with 3 girls.
Yeah, exactly.
And you know what? Too, your energy is probably attracting these type of girls, or you're trying to reach for girls who don't fit your lane.
Exactly.
Like you're not gonna be a fucking like. Not to say that you're a nobody if you don't have clout, but like if you're someone who's not famous and you're trying to get a fucking Instagram baddie,
it's gonna be tough for you.
Exactly, and she clowns you, and then you're gonna be like, oh man, she doesn't fuck with me because I'm not rich, because I don't got clout, because I don't got followers. No, like, you gotta know what the fuck you're like shooting at.
Yeah, like it's gonna be a long day for you. You're just not in your target demographic, and I think that's what a lot of this stuff comes down to, right? It's about knowing yourself, being mature, growing is the answer for just society right now. For the way that I see things, right? I say society very broadly. I'm just saying, like, if everybody just focused on their shit, right? If everybody just shut the fuck up,
life will be a lot better.
Yeah, just everyone shut the fuck up, heal, grind, focus on yourself, and a lot of your problems are gonna go away. And then
you know what I would say to that though? I'd say it's a lot easier said than done, because like healing involves a lot of like space and freedom.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying, like, if you actually want to take the time to like heal, you probably wouldn't work. You know what I'm saying? If you wanted to really, really heal, you probably wouldn't work.
Exactly. Okay, yeah, that's a good point.
So like a lot of it too, I would say, is because how our system is set up, and people call it the matrix, people call it the capitalist society or system.
Yeah.
But like, it is true where like a lot of times our time where we can kind of like spend healing or unpacking our traumas or just being happy is kind of like steered off that path with what we have to do to even survive.
Which is becoming tough. Which is becoming a lot tougher now.
It's a lot tougher now because you've seen in the pandemic how like there's a lot of people who have passed away like due to mental health. I had a friend who passed away recently, committing suicide, and it's like you can see how this generation now is kind of waking up to it. Not to say like we have all the answers, but we're kind of like noticing like this kind of fucked up, and like not to say that like people who are like famous and rich have it fucked up. It's just that people want different things.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. That's a really good point that you made too, right? Like, you need to have the space and whatever to
heal, to actually like kind of just be good. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Not everybody has a space, because then like, say for some people, like you, for example, you have to work, I have to work, we got bills to pay. Mm-hmm. So it's not like we can just fucking take a break and be like, oh, like this is my grace period. You kind of just have to like find that little grace periods and those breaks in between while you're dealing with shit. Yeah, that's true. Like, now we're men, now we're adults.
Yeah, and even on the term of healing, like as we're saying, I'm like, man, healing looks different for everybody, right?
Yeah, like honestly, I don't even know like how to heal. Like if I asked you how to heal, do you know how to heal?
No. Yeah. I have an idea. And that's probably why you need the time, because you need the time to even like figure out, what am I healing from?
Yeah, well, I know or like I'm healing from, but it's like, how the fuck? Okay, for example, I'm gonna get a little bit like deep here, right? Yeah. For example, like my dad sold drugs. He was in and out of prison as a kid. So like, I know for me, for example, like as a kid, I would always have to like lie about stuff when people would ask me, oh, like what do your parents do? Oh, they're accountants. Mm-hmm. So I was always kind of used to like putting up a facade that I was okay when I wasn't okay. Yeah. And I could see how that kind of like I guess transition in how I handle my relationships in the future, or now that I'm grown up, where it's like sometimes I like to lie just to like save my energy. Right. Because then like back then as a kid, like I'm not gonna be like, oh, my dad sells drugs. Right. Yeah. So like now, my relationships, the way I navigate them is, if somebody asks me something, if I see that you don't even have the energy or capacity to even understand what I'm going through, I'm just gonna lie. Right. I see. So I guess that also leads me into like not being as open as a person as I should be. Mm-hmm. And then like even for example, I didn't even take in like from that stuff. It made me so paranoid and anxious like as a kid, because then like my dad, he'd always be looking over his shoulder every like restaurant we went to, everybody's house we go to, because there's legit like always cops like trying to like catch him lacking. Yeah. I've been a part of like 3 SWAT raids in my house and everything. And then like my dad was an alcoholic. He used to beat the shit out of my mom. I've waken up to like him beating my mom, and like I had to like fight him off and bring her to my room while she cries, and I like listen to her cry while I sleep. And it's like that shit is like, it's easy for me to talk about now because like I've talked about it enough times, like say like my girl or like the few people that I know. But it's like shit like that. Like how do you even really heal from that shit? Yeah. Because it's like, I feel like the only way to heal through that shit is like, oh, like it happened, but it happened. Mm-hmm. If that makes sense.
And it could be like one of those things where you have to figure out like what, like you just did right now, figuring out like what were the like the ripple effects in your life, like you said, like the seeing people that you don't have the energy for, you should just be like, it's just better for me to say that. And it's like figuring out like what about your personality and like figure out where it stems from. So it does it, like again to your point, it does take a lot of time. You need time availability to even figure that shit out for yourself.
Because then like I know what the fuck is bothering me, but then like how the fuck do I even get over it besides saying like, it is what it is? You know what I'm saying? And which is like I don't know if that's like the healthy way to say like it is what it is.
I think it is what it is just the most temporary fix ever, you know? Yeah. Like it is what it is is acknowledging something, but just then putting it under the rug, saying like, whatever, like I'm just gonna hug that.
Yeah, because sometimes one thing that I also struggled with is like my connection with my parents, right? Because I don't have a lot of family, so like basically my mom and dad is like my only like, I guess, family. And I don't know if you go through this where it's like your mom and your dad put you on this earth. Shouldn't they put in more of an effort to connect with you?
Yes. Here's a caveat.
All right.
With that is I've learned that my parents, you operate at the level of what you've known and what you know, right? So I'm also in the same boat where like I'm trying, and it's weird for me to try to connect with my dad.
Because it's not your job; it's your dad's job.
It's my dad's. It should be my dad's job. Uh-huh. But his dad didn't do that with him. Yeah. So there's probably nothing indicating him, or he doesn't have like a kind of like a blueprint on how to really do it.
No, for sure. No, I see that too. Where it's like, I understand my parents had their own like experiences, so I can't really hold them to like a fault 100% because like, obviously their parents lacked. That's why they are the way they are now. Mm-hmm. But also, like, I don't want to give them an excuse where it's like, oh, like, just because that happened, that makes it okay for you to act like this.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. Where I'm in agreement with you is, it's not giving them the room for the excuse, you know? Yeah. I think where I'm coming at it from is that, like, think about it right now, bro. Mm-hmm. They had us at the ages that we're right now.
Yeah. Oh, my parents had me younger. My parents had me when want to say 19, 17.
19, 17?
Like yeah, 17 to like 20. Like mad young.
Yeah, right? Yeah. So like around those ages, I also factor those things and I'm like, damn, like bro, like I don't even know
what you would do at that age.
Yeah, right.
I don't even know what I would do now.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Like if I were to have a kid now, I make a whole lot of mistakes. So when I'm looking at my parents and I wholly believe that they should be making more of an effort and it shouldn't be all on me to think of this. Like am I the only one in this in the party between the both of us
that gives a fuck?
That gives a fuck. Like life is short.
Exactly.
I could go tomorrow, you could go tomorrow, and am I the only one worried that I can't sit down with you and have just chat? And just
a conversation about like, you know, our feelings.
Just be friends. Like we don't even have to go deep. Like, yo, pops, you say, woo, I'm about to go to the store. Like, you want to come with me? Mm-hmm. Nah, but yo, have fun. You know, like we could just talk like that.
Have you and your dad actually ever had like a real convo?
Maybe like once.
True, like maybe me too, like just like once.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think that like you can't go up to your dad and be like, yo, dad, I'm pretty sad right now. Could you go up to your dad and be like, I'm pretty sad right now, and have him actually like console you?
I feel like I could, but like it'd be weird.
Yeah, so I'm saying like it shouldn't be weird though. Like it's mad fucking like you came out of his balls.
Yeah.
Like it shouldn't be weird, and like you shouldn't even have to hesitate. But it's weird that we have to hesitate. And the thing that you said about them having kids at a young age, it's also a decision. Mm-hmm. So me at 19, I'm not gonna have a kid at 19.
Yeah.
Like, I have the conscious decision and awareness to be like, oh, like, I can't handle this right now. I don't have the financial resources to to carry a kid. So it's like, am I gonna give them that kind of like grace? Because then your parents didn't just have you; they had 4 more after you.
Yeah.
So it's like, fuck, like you guys didn't think about this at all.
Right.
So you guys just had kids, popped them out there, didn't care that you weren't financially ready, didn't care that you were emotionally equipped to kind of like help them navigate through the world.
It's crazy.
It's crazy because a lot of these parents kind of just pop kids out and they're like, oh, we give you like a roof and shelter, and they don't really teach you how to navigate the world.
But you know what? I think that's the luxury of where we're at right now, because you know the collective consciousness is always evolving.
You know, for sure. Especially social media. As bad as social media is,
it's allowed us to
be collectively conscious.
Yeah, share the great ideas that got us to this point where we're all even there like, yeah, you're right. What the fuck are my parents doing?
Yeah.
Because maybe before, like, there wasn't enough people saying these ideas, so people weren't even thinking about it, right? So it was like the consciousness was at one level, and then now we're on social media. Like I said, as much as there's bullshit, there's great stuff that help us elevate.
Like before, I used to think my parents fucking like annoying traits.
Yeah.
Or just part of their personality traits. Like them like projecting onto you. I didn't even know what projection was. So like say for example, your dad saying like, oh, like Joel, you better go to school, you better get good grades. I thought that was like part of them being a parent of their personality. But if you think about it, like obviously to some degree it is. But I mean in a sense where like they're super controlling, they're like, oh, if you don't go to school, you'll fail. Like that type of projection. Like it comes from like fucking like just them not being like emotionally ready. Like they're kind of just, what's that word? They're putting their traumas and their insecurities that they experienced when they were a kid and putting it onto you instead of actually like giving you like a fresh slate, giving you like no assumptions, no doubts and everything. I lost my train of thought there, but I came back.
No, but I feel you on the projection part because
parents project all the time.
And it makes me think too, like when I get to that point when I'm, you know, if I'm blessed to have a kid.
Like, will I project? That's what I thought about the other day. Like, will I project too? Will I be a parent?
We will, but because collectively we've all, now that these thoughts and these questions are like out there for us right now, we'll do a way better job
for sure
of that aspect. There's certain aspects where we'll fall short because we tend to overcorrect.
Yeah.
So we may go too far one way and then some areas will be lacking.
I feel like to some degree, if I see my kid going towards the same path that I did, that I know like was not good for me and I fucked up and like I made these mistakes, I'm gonna obviously be like, yo, you don't know what the fuck you're doing right now. Like, trust me, I've been through this, which is a projection because you don't know like how they will handle it like from beginning to end.
Yeah.
They might start it, but they might veer off and handle it in a different way because we're not the same people. So I guess that is projection in a way, but like I feel like that's for me would be inevitable. But I don't know if that's harmful enough to be like negative.
No, I don't even think that's harmful. I think that's probably the safest projection, saying like, I've seen this. Yeah. Here's my tidbit of advice.
take it with like how you may.
Yeah. It does go into, you start thinking about different parenting styles and all the stuff that comes with it.
Yeah, but I didn't take in like how, like I read a book, that book you showed me actually about mindsets with a open mindset, fixed mindsets.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't take in like how careful you have to be with your words to like not fucking shape your kid's personality a certain way.
Word.
That's crazy. Like everything you say will affect them. How you handle situations will affect them. I seen this one thing too that kind of like confused me, but I didn't necessarily agree with it, but she's like, oh, when your kid falls, recently they said not to make a big deal out of it, right? It's like, oh, it's okay. So that way, like when something big happens in the future, they don't get overwhelmed every time like they scrape their knee.
Right. Yeah.
But then another podcast host said how like you should teach them that like, oh, like I'm in pain right now, because you don't want them to like get in the habit of lying to themselves. And I don't agree with that, because I'd rather go towards the direction of like, oh, like not everything has to be like this overwhelming like big ass thing.
Yeah.
But I can see how like every little thing you do can fuck up your child.
My friend gave the best analogy one time. He's like, yo, getting a child is like receiving a meat computer.
A what?
A meat computer.
What's a meat computer?
Like a computer. You know how like where they say it's like a kind of a rudimentary way to like a very like basic way to say humans, right? Because we're just bags of meat with a brain to program, right? So we're just meat computers. Like you just get this thing that you're responsible for programming, and every single thing that you do wrong is trauma. Yeah. Right? That's a huge ass responsibility. You talk to it wrong, trauma. You know, you don't come to a game one time. Yeah. That means a lot to them. Trauma, trauma may not be the biggest trauma, but something that they're gonna keep in the back of their mind. And I think I like putting it that way, because for me it helps it put into perspective the kind of responsibility that you have.
And that's crazy though. Like that's so much responsibility where like everything you do, like you actually have to like monitor and like make sure you're not biased or projecting or like fucking like putting your own emotions into like every interaction you have with the kid.
And yo, you know what else it was crazy too? Kids learn more from watching you than they do from listening to you.
Oh, for sure, for sure.
So then it's like on top of like I have to watch what I say.
Yeah. Watch how you act when you're not even fucking talking to them.
Yeah. Like the way you move, the way you spend your days, you know, like the kids were like when we're young. And like, kids aren't like actively just like staring at you and just taking notes. But just through watching you live your life, they're making it like they're just learning.
You're subconsciously fucking like taking your habits too.
Yeah.
And how like maybe like they choose like some habits that they don't fuck with, but whatever they see is in a way still affecting them.
Yeah.
Whether like they're taking it or not. But that's crazy. And it still brings me back to my old point of like our parents really just fucking dashers out there and like
that was the generation that they came out of. Like that generation was just as nuts. And then we also have Eastern parents, like from the other side of the world.
That's true.
Like over here, I don't know what they were on. I can't really speak for it.
I can't speak to like how a white fucking house.
I have no clue.
I have no clue.
I have no. If someone how are white, I have no clue what's going on in those houses, bro.
Do you guys want to comment down below how if you're white and how your family raised you?
Yeah, because I don't even want to assume what went on in your house. You know, I'm not trying to be ignorant and take cheap shots at white people because I can, but I won't.
Because like as like a fucking like immigrant or like just someone from the East, we're used to fucking beatings.
Yeah,
we're used to fucking your parents not being like emotionally, what's that word, transparent with you.
Yeah, or having agendas for your life. Mm-hmm. Like that's how I felt. I felt like I had an agenda for my life, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
It got to a point where I started harboring resentment when I wanted to start making my own path. And then this agenda was always being thrown back in my face. Mm-hmm. Like, hey, this is who you're supposed to be, or this is who God told you to be. I felt like there was always this agenda that was being pushed on it. And when it comes, and that's the thing with I could say African religious parents, right? Yeah. Again, even between the two of us, completely different things. Or when it comes to parents from that side of the world, I have religious parents where now, for me in the long run, it harbored resentment because some of the things I wish I would have been taught and open that my parents could have put me onto would have set up my life a whole lot differently. And, you know, everything that happened to me led me to meet the people.
Yeah, you still live and you learn.
Yeah.
But I get what you mean though. Where it's like, I don't know, parents just place such a fucking like high emphasis on school. But like for me, for example, I went to school for a Bachelor of Commerce as you did.
Yeah.
And like now I'm done. I'm not using it. I don't even know what the fuck I did it, but I did it just for like the validation and like approval of my parents, which is stupid. Yeah. When you look at it in a broader spectrum, but it's like fuck. That's how like I didn't even fucking like realize how underdeveloped your parents are because they're kind of just kids but older.
Yeah.
As a kid, you're always like, oh, they know best. They know like what's good and what's up and everything. When you get older, you're like, oh, like they're just figuring this shit out just the same we are, the same way we are.
Okay, so what let's take that thought, right? Because I agree with you, but we're not better than them. So What we're saying is like, when you look at yourself now, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the things that you're thinking about so we're not like the same generation, like the generation before?
Yo, just taking accountability, like.
Facts.
You trying to just fucking like see, because our parents, like, obviously we're all human, we make mistakes, but your parents will not fucking take accountability and take blame the same way that you do or I do. Like, you will never hear your parents say like, oh, like, I messed up. I had you guys in the phase of my life where I wasn't financially ready and intelligent enough to be like, oh, like, this wasn't the right timing. Which sucks because it's like you would not be here right now, but like it is true that like
it's true, yeah.
Some parents put their kids through struggle when they don't need to be. Well, I seen this one video where this girl, she had 5 kids and she's homeless. I'm like, why are you gonna put your kids through that after the first kid, like let alone the first kid? I don't know if it's like out of like a rape or an assault, so I can't say anything. But like 5 kids is no excuse.
Yeah, it is. That one's wild.
You're choosing 5 to put them through that trauma of being homeless, that instability, the anxiety, the depression.
And society has to deal with that, right?
Exactly.
Like your kids have to deal with themselves, and then the collective has to deal with that as well, which people don't.
I say fuck the collective though. I say like it's more so for the kid because then like like you've had your share of like mental health like struggles, right? Imagine someone who's really really going through it. Because then like I've gone through it, but I know obviously there's always worse.
Right.
So I imagine like people who are like abandoned, like fosters, orphans, like imagine what they have to go through.
No, yeah, you're right. When I say the collective and thinking about them, just to kind of open up when I'm thinking about that is if I have a kid, right?
Yeah.
And I don't do the best job with him. Like for example,
he might go on to hurt somebody else.
He may go on to hurt, and when you look at the statistics when it comes to like kids that come from a specific kind of home and specific kind of neighborhood, like there's just these outcomes that kind of play out for some reason, right? So I think of when I'm talking about thinking about the collective is like you don't want to put your kids in a situation where they're going to be susceptible to like these kind of influences where they're going to go off and hurt other people and things like that.
No, for sure.
Yeah,
and I feel the struggle too, like say for like single moms who when they like have to work and like raise kids and then the kids end up doing bad shit because there's no one home to watch them type shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, that brings me to another topic though, where like as I grow up, I've realized that like I don't want to be rich. Like I want to have money to have freedom and like comfortability, but I don't need to be fucking like a billionaire, millionaire. I don't need to be filthy rich. I just want to be able to be comfortable. If that makes sense with you.
No, that makes sense to me. Rich is the end goal. Like I think for like where I'm at now is rich is the outcome of like how I live my life. Yeah,
rich. Yeah, I feel like fucking like being successful and happy is so fucking subjective. Where like people have to just place like such a big monetary value on being like successful and being happy. And I agree to a certain extent because like obviously we live in a capitalist society where like you need money to fucking live, you need money to eat. But then I feel like you get it so twisted up where we feel like you're less than another person because you make less or you work at McDonald's.
It's like we operate a very weird kind of energy. And how I've come, my conclusion is this, and I was listening to a guy named Andrew Frizzell or something, whatever, and he said something I really believe. He's like, winning is more fun than fun. Tate? No, not Andrew Tate. Andrew Frizzella or something like that. He said winning is more fun than fun itself. And what he was talking about, he's like, the hard work, the drive, the dedication to your craft is more fun than all like when you're just sitting back out drinking, whatever, counting the money. I think when everybody thinks about being rich, like they like that idea, right? And I'm no better than anyone. Don't think that I'm like super deep.
We're all like that. We all just want to fucking be successful the fast way, the easy way. You want it like right now.
Because I want that just as much as anybody, right?
Yeah.
But when I heard that man say that, it kind of changed the way I want to think about things. Where like, it's not about being rich. I just want to win it in my life in the way that means to me.
Whatever way winning looks like to you.
Exactly. I want to do that. If that's my career,
if having a family, a career, like it's anything, you just want to win.
Yeah, I just want to win, and that's it. Because those are going to be fulfilling to me. If I'm raising really good kids and I'm doing well in my career, I'm providing for them, and then if I'm winning, like what, I'm good.
Because it's the way I fucking saw it. Like, I feel like during COVID, my mentality kind of got shifted. Because then as a fucking like kid, right? Like we said, back to our parents, we're kind of like, oh, like we have to go to school, we get successful jobs, you gotta be doctors, you gotta be lawyers. And then I guess like when I got to like my adolescent ages, I'm like, fuck. I tried doing music for at a younger period of my life. So it's kind of like, oh, let's get money, let's get fucking hoes, let's get clout. And then when a pandemic, like it kind of fizzled out because the university kind of just took my drive away. But when a pandemic hit, it kind of made me rethink like what fulfilled me, what my values were. Because it's kind of like you're not getting the same dopamine that you're getting from like going to the club, hollering at this girl, hollering at this girl. You're not getting the same dopamine that you get from like just fucking seeing all these people that like, at the end of the day, they don't really fuck with you. They're just social media people, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So during that phase in COVID, I feel like a lot of people kind of had that realization of like, oh, like my values need to be realigned because your values are shifting, your ethics are shifting. And like, I don't know, you just kind of like finding yourself again.
Yeah.
So that's what I found out for myself during the COVID era or COVID lockdown.
Pandemic helped me get more centered. That was one thing.
Yeah, helped me get more centered for sure. Because I realized I'm a very family oriented person.
Yeah. I had time to like just slow down. Just, okay, like not that my life was like fast paced. I'm out here. Yeah. No, but I was distracted because I had so much shit to do. But pandemic, now everything shuts down. Now I'm alone with my thoughts, right? If I wasn't gaming with you guys on Warzone, I was just on my ones in my thoughts, right? So the pandemic helped me get more centered. And, my experience with it is unique because I was lucky because I was in a field where, there wasn't a lot of layoffs. I was working in sales so that, surprisingly, they still had budget for my ass, right? And I was still able to work. So that's one less stress that I had on myself.
Yep.
But I was still able to learn more about me and just kind of look within, and it helped me a lot.
I feel like during the pandemic, you kind of like get to ask yourself more questions than you normally would.
Yeah. And good content started coming out too.
Good what?
Like good content where people were asking all those questions.
Finding more relatable.
And it goes back to that collective consciousness we were talking about. Everybody's just at home all day, so we're all thinking. Someone goes online, posts a really good thought they had. Now I'm thinking about that too.
Yeah.
So another thing that pandemic really helped accelerate was like the way I see it was that collective consciousness of where we're at.
That's a good way to say it too. Consciousness.
It helped it grow because
I wouldn't say that we're all like fucking like we have everything solved.
Yeah.
But we're definitely like asking the right questions.
The required questions are coming up. They're coming up every single day, and that accelerated my thinking because I think the pandemic, from like a emotional perspective, helped me personally grow by what I would have done in 2, 3, 4, 5 years maybe got compressed in 2 years. So that's how I say. I don't know if you guys feel the same way.
Yeah.
But that's
how I don't know if you guys feel the same way, but I feel like I actually did not know how to regulate my own emotions till like maybe like during the pandemic or after the pandemic, if that makes sense.
Oh, true.
Where like I would feel ways, but I would never be able to dissect why I felt the way.
Okay,
yeah. I don't know, pandemic was just fucking interesting. I feel like for a lot of people, like it either helped you or it set you back. Either you asked the right questions or you asked questions that you couldn't handle at the time.
The pandemic really broke some people.
Broke a lot of people.
Broke a lot of people being alone. And if you were already alone and then you went through the pandemic alone, that's why I'm thankful for like gaming. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, let's be real. Like during the pandemic, like I had my girl, but like obviously you still need like social interactions outside of your partner.
Yeah.
Like if it wasn't for gaming during the pandemic, I'd be fucking like mad.
Yeah, legit. Like let me just say right now, I know that we're on a serious topic. Shout out Activision, bro.
Yeah, shout out Activision. Shout out Warzone, bro.
Shout out Warzone. Like I'm
shout out Fortnite.
Shout out
Warzone.
Shout out all those different mediums because, bro, that taught me the value of like having real ones around me.
Yeah, for
like
sure.
You, Edward, AK, Levine, like all my boys. You know what I'm saying? That if I didn't name you, don't feel ways, and I don't want to go through the whole fucking list. You know, like don't cry, bro. So, but like that made me realize how important having those relationships and like those are like the most important ones where. It was just like, I didn't even need to talk about anything deep, but we did.
Yeah.
And that obviously helped, but just being able to like, just kind of step away from all that.
Yeah, just be mindless. Like, it's like hooping with the boys.
Yeah.
Like hooping with the boys, but gaming.
It was, so shout out to that. That also helped you in the pandemic. And like, honestly, bro, part of the stimulus package should have been like everybody got either a PC or Xbox or PS4.
Bro. You know what? They basically did.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Bear Man's fucking got that CERB check and bought a PC.
Exactly. Yeah. They took that CERB and that's what I see it, man. Like that should be part of the stimulus. Just everyone gets a PS4, let's all get online and game. Cause that was helpful as fuck.
Yeah. You know, too, have you ever thought about how hard it is to be present?
Yeah.
Yeah, right? Cause
I thought about that.
Like we go through our lives and we can't help it again because of the system. But like we go through our lives thinking about like, oh, like When am I gonna have kids? How much money am I gonna have at the end of the month? What does this bill do? And like being present is so hard because then like what did they say? I think they say anxiety lives in the future, depression lives in the past. So be present.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so fucking hard. But I feel like you said, gaming is one of those things where like when you're gaming, you're not really thinking about anything else. You're just thinking about the game. You're actually being present. Same with like hooping. So I feel like it's very important to find like not hobbies, but just outlets for you to kind of like just be present.
To hone in, yeah.
Yeah, to hone in.
Music, whatever it is.
To be here.
Whatever it is. You're right. It helps you just be here. And I for myself, because I would hear that and I didn't really get it for a while. But the day that I got it was I left the gym. I had a really good workout. Probably already told you the story, but I left the gym. I'm going on my way home. It was a great workout. And then I'm thinking to myself, like, yeah, man, 3 to 4 months from now, I'm going to look that. But then I was like, yeah, but I don't look that way now. I got sad.
Yeah, it's anxiety because you're talking about the future. You're like, oh, what if I don't achieve this outcome? Will I be a failure?
Exactly. And that's when it clicked for me. That's when it clicked. That's when I understood being present. Like, if all I thought about was that moment, how good my workout was, and how much I grew in that moment,
every day you would have been like, oh, I put in work today. That's it.
That's it. And that's when I took in the difference. When I left, I was so happy.
Yeah.
But then I thought what I thought, and then became sad instantly. And that's the day for me where it all clicked out and everything's going.
I know this one guy where like he hasn't really experienced any trauma, and he told us that we were lucky that we went through trauma, because then it made us better, more equipped for life later on whenever we had like an obstacle. And the way
good point.
Like I could see why, but I don't agree, because when you have deep-rooted trauma, like real trauma, you never really get over it. I feel like you just kind of learn how to deal with it and learn how to cope with it. So I feel like that's a privilege. It's very privileged to say that, because it's like, oh, like you haven't gone through this, so you don't know like the anxiety it brings, the paranoia it brings. Like one time I was on vacation with my fam friend and his cousin, right? So me and the fam friend, his brother also is involved in that life. My dad's involved in that life. And his friend was like, yo, you guys are so cool. Like you guys are so lucky. I wish my family grew up like that. And then we're like, nah, like there's nothing cool about that. I hate when people glamorize the street life. Because then like seeing how it affected my dad like firsthand, I saw like how it fucking like how much trauma that brings, how much fucking negative energy, how it affects your mood, your energy, your attitude, how you handle situations, and it's just crazy.
Yes, it is pretty interesting. Like when people do glamorize that shit, because I remember growing up in the hard streets of Mississauga.
Hard streets.
Like, these are crazy streets, bro. You're watching this gang life. You're like, yo, I can seize up. And it just looks cool on the outside for some reason where you're not part of it. But damn, get thrown into it. Like the anxiety.
The anxiety and shit is crazy.
Right. Maybe not us, but is my older brother going to come home? Like, imagine being the younger brother of a gangbanger.
I'll tell you this, that as a kid, whenever I'd go home, like I wouldn't know if like my dad would be there. Because then like I didn't even know if like every time he stepped out the house he would come back. I heard all these stories about man. It's like he could get picked up by the cops. He could also get fucking taken out. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Because then like I've heard all these stories about like I've had a lot of uncles who have passed away or just fucking done bear time in prison. I've heard a lot of stories about how like this guy's girl was at home alone and these fucking 4 masked men just fucking broke into the house and beat the shit out of her. Oh, so I always have these anxieties and like fucking like scenarios where like even when I'm just chilling here, I'm like, oh, like someone could just fucking break into fucking like whether it be a SWAT team, because I've had SWAT team fucking kick through my bedroom door and like in my house, or it's fucking men who are just breaking the house trying to rob you. So like that shit brings a lot of anxiety where people like glamorize that shit. They don't really go through it or don't have the depth to understand all the fucking shit or all the negatives. Obviously it's negative, but all the negatives that actually do come with that life.
Mm-hmm. And trauma itself, they just look at I don't know what they're looking at. Because I'm trying to put myself in my mind, like, what was I seeing about that life that was appealing to me?
It just looks cool because it's fucking like the guns, the money and shit. Yeah. And like, you can see how fucking traumatized people in prison are, because I watch a lot of prison docs, right? And they know they're doing bad and they don't want to do it, but they're so deep, like stuck in that trauma and that cycle that they're fucking like first week out, they're already back in prison. Yeah. And I fucking hate Toronto because, let's be honest, Toronto is not as bad as America. We're nowhere near as bad as America. Yes, we still have our hoods, but I feel like unless you're in the projects and you need to fucking do this shit to fucking survive, you should have no reason to be near that shit. Yeah. You live in the suburbs. If you got both parents, they got good jobs.
I wholeheartedly believe that.
There's no reason for you to be in the streets.
I wholeheartedly
You're being in the streets because you're fucking stupid.
and this might sound ignorant of me to say, and tell me how you feel about this. Even for those mans that are in the projects and doing all that, I would say it's just opportunities, everything, right? And I'm privileged that I'm able to see it. But even for people that are in that position, it's like if you just looked outside just a little more.
Yeah, no, I get what you mean.
Right, because we're in Canada, there's so many different avenues. We're not as segregated, and there's not so many limited opportunities. But again, that's easy for me to say.
It goes both ways because you see mans who are mans that grow up in that environment and are able to separate themselves and fucking, do more. And it's not to fucking put down people who are in that life, because obviously my dad's been in that life. I know a lot of fucking people who have been in that life. But growing up in that life, it's hard for you to fucking distinguish what is right from wrong. Because all your role models are this is the life. Get this bag, you know what I'm saying? So it's even me as a kid, I was fucking looking up to that. I was looking up to my dad's friends, these men always have money. They got tattoos, they got all the brands, they got the cars. But it wasn't until I grew up later on where I'm seeing these men are hooked on drugs. I see the aging in their face from all the drugs they do, from all the stress to cope with a fucking life.
Right.
So then again, I understand what you're saying too, where you're coming from, where there's always opportunity, where there is always an opportunity. There's always, if there's a will, there's a way. Not saying that every environment, not saying underdeveloping countries have the same fucking privilege, but I'm saying in westernized society, majority of us have an opportunity to not fall into that fucking cycle. Yeah,
we really don't. Especially, and to your point, especially in Toronto. So when I see, because I say that too, because there's one kid that I grew up in my neighborhood. His name was Abdi.
Yeah.
And Abdi started off as a good kid. He was just like every other kid, fixing computers. He was just cool, nerdy guy.
Yeah.
Years go by. He starts, going OT and whatever. He starts doing all these things. I find out years later that he got shot outside his house.
Oh yeah,
and it was really sad. What hurt the most? He had younger brothers. It was just his mom, his younger brothers. His dad was still in Somalia. Right, and wow, your mom had to deal with that on her own.
Yeah, that's crazy stuff.
And your brother, and I know his brothers too. So you guys lost your older brother that.
I would never wish that on anybody. Losing someone is fucking tough as fuck.
Right, and on a life that you didn't have to go down, because he was in the same neighborhood that I was in, that my brother was in, that so many people were in that neighborhood that we all grew up in, and it's so interesting to see kind of the different paths that everybody took. But when I found out this guy got shot outside his house, it's just yo, Abdi, what
are you doing?
RIP, condolences to your family. I'm gonna miss you for real. I just wish somebody could have told me you really didn't have to choose this life.
Yeah, no, I feel you.
You had every opportunity.
But yeah, that was a good first episode. We're glad that you guys stayed with us. If you guys are still here, if there's one person watching, thank you. If there's two people, thank you even more. All right, but this is the first episode. We will have more. We don't know what our setup's fully gonna be yet. We don't know our end goal, but we're just gonna keep recording for you guys. Try to be relatable, talk about life experiences, try to connect with you, connect with each other. You have anything to say, Joel?
Best of luck out there. Life's hard.
Best of luck out there. Life's hard. World's not easy, but shit, we get through it.
Yeah, man. We'll see you guys in the next one.